feel like Project 2025 just popped up out of nowhere? Because it did not. I'm Elena. I studied Christian fundamentalism and politics in Divinity School, and I grew up in this world, so I am here to unpack it for you. Project 2025 was developed and spearheaded by an activist conservative think tank called the Heritage Foundation, and it's very important to understand where the Heritage Foundation came from if we want to understand Project 2025 today. Heritage was founded in 1973 by Paul Weyrich, among a few other co-founders, who is super important in shaping modern-day conservatism and coined the term moral majority. Weyrich was a key figure in what's called the New Right, and he was really heavily focused on wedge issues like abortion and aligning with the religious right. He was one of the original voices protesting political correctness. He was one of the original voices championing something called cultural Marxism, which we will get to at some point in the future. He wanted to ban Wiccans from serving in the military. He was a huge fan of Christian dominionism, which is a form of theology that essentially believes that Christians ought to institute biblical law from the seat of power in a country. So Weyrich brings all of these ideas into the Heritage Foundation alongside Joseph Coors, who provides the funding for Heritage. If you're wondering why the name Coors sounds familiar, that's because Joseph Coors is the literal heir to the Coors Brewing Company. He was a conservative businessman, and he was interested in funding conservative ventures like Heritage. Heritage really tried to set itself apart from other conservative think tanks in the 70s and 80s by specifically focusing in on issues that were of interest to Christian conservatives. But Heritage most successfully broke through in 1981 with the original Project 2025, the Mandate for Leadership. Project 2025 is, of course, at the center of our collective attention right now, but it's actually just another installment in Heritage's Mandate for Leadership series, which they published to coincide with virtually every incoming presidential administration. The 1981 Mandate for Leadership was 3,000 pages of policy guidance for the first Reagan administration, and Reagan absolutely embraced this document. He distributed copies of this document during his first cabinet meeting and put key authors of the document into cabinet positions. In fact, by the time his first year in office had ended, Heritage said that approximately 60% of the proposals in this book had been either initiated or implemented by Reagan. Heritage loved Reagan, and Reagan loved Heritage. He called Heritage a vital force and said that the Mandate for Leadership series was a, quote, warning shot telling the liberal establishment that they could not expect to carry on business as usual. In his second inaugural address, he specifically recited multiple policy proposals from the second installment of Mandate for Leadership. Heritage itself called Reagan one of the best friends that they had ever had. These mandates for leadership continued to be incredibly important for Heritage as they moved through the next several presidential administrations. Come back for part 2 and we will talk about it more then.